Hello everyone, and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about Frax. Before we get started, I do want to point out that I have a new microphone, a new camera, so hopefully that setup looks good, and I thought it would be good to introduce this new setup with this Frax video because I've just hit about 20,000 subscribers now, and Frax was actually the first project I covered on this channel, so it's really nice to circle back to Frax. So how does Frax, the stablecoin, actually work? Well, it is an algorithmic stablecoin, which means a portion of the Frax, that's in the top left column here, the Frax stablecoin is in part backed by stablecoins like USDC and DAI, and the other part of it is backed by FXS, the governance and shares token of the Frax platform. You can see here on the top right, the collateral ratio of Frax is 83.5%, which means about 83 cents of each Frax is backed by a stablecoin like USDC or DAI, and the other 16.5% is backed by this FXS token. Now, if I switch from looking at the price of Frax, the stablecoin, to the supply, this is where it gets exciting. So I've been a part of this ecosystem for a while, and over the last few months, you can see the growth of the stablecoin has been pretty much parabolic. It's at $1.25 billion right now. I think when I first covered the project, there was just under $100 million of Frax stablecoins out there, so that's pretty exciting to see. Now, all of that growth in the Frax asset, a lot of the value accrual there is supposed to go to the FXS token, and you can see there that the FXS token has gone up pretty significantly in price with all of this new Frax coming onto the market. Now, we can look at price here, but I think this is a bit less of a relevant metric just because so many people have been farming FXS and earning it like myself. So it's actually better to look at the circulating market cap because we want to see that that increases, and of course it has with FXS, so also very exciting to see that too. This essentially means that although the FXS supply has been diluted, or the circulating supply has been diluted, the value is still holding in the FXS token, which has been pretty good for stakers. So what are the advantages to the Frax model? Well, since my last video, they've been putting in a ton of work, and they've actually been utilizing their protocol's treasury and all of the stablecoins that are sitting in the protocol to get a pretty substantial amount of revenue. So as I mentioned, the Frax market cap is about $1.25 billion, and 83% or so of that is backed by hard assets in DeFi. So what Frax has realized is those assets that are backing Frax can actually be earning a yield while they're sitting there as collateral. So if we click over to the AMOs tab, there's going to be a lot going on here, but I can show you what exactly that means. So if I just switch over to all time on the graph here, you can see the accrued profit to the protocol has now reached about $42 million, which is pretty impressive. What Frax is doing is basically that USDC, that DAI that's going into the protocol to mint Frax, they're, let's just say, lending it out on Aave or Yearn, or Compound, and they're getting a yield that way. So that $1.2 billion or so of stablecoins in the platform is all earning a yield, which is great to see, and all of that profit theoretically flows back to FXS holders. So as of now, 50% of those profits have been used to purchase FXS back from the open market and burn it, and the other 50% has been sent to FXS stakers. So that leads me to a new mechanic which was not around when I first covered the project, and that's called VEFXS. Now, the VE stands for Vote Escrowed, and this is similar to Curve's VE CRV model if you're familiar with that. So through Frax's VE FXS model, users can stake the Frax that they've purchased or earned from farming for a period of up to 4 years. So if you lock up your FXS for 4 years, that's the max amount of time, you'll get about a 13% APR as it stands today. Now, all of your FXS isn't unlocked at the end of 4 years. It's actually dripped out back to you over the period of 4 years, so you'll slowly get that balance over time, which would actually decrease your yield as time progresses unless you restake your FXS. So you might be asking yourself, well, why would someone do that for, say, 13% APR? Well, the reason is because it actually will allow you to get a 2x boost on their stablecoin farms. Frax has a ton of different farms active, but the VEFXS enabled farms, the ones that you can get a boosted yield on, there's about 9 options which you can see here in the right. I think the most interesting one right now is the Gelato Uniswap Frax DAI pool, so I will just click that and show you a bit about how that works. So this Frax DAI pool provided by Gelato is essentially a Uniswap v3 wrapper. So what Gelato does is they essentially automatically manage the concentrated liquidity position for you, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're interested in learning more, I will link Sorbet Finance below. It's basically Gelato's front end, and you can provide liquidity there. It's also linked on the Frax website. in the top right here. So the yield here on providing liquidity for Frax DAI on Gelato is actually pretty good at 58%. Again, I do expect that to go down a bit just as more people discover it and enter the pool, but as it stands now, that's quite high. But this 58% APR, you can actually do significantly more than that if you have a VE FXS boost or you decide to lock your liquidity position for a longer period of time. So you can see on this pool, the most you can get right now is about a 290% yield, which is pretty crazy for stablecoins. Now, you would get this yield by doing two things. The first is you would have to lock up this liquidity position for a time period of 3 years, which is obviously a long time. Now, in addition to that, or instead of that, you can also get a VE FXS boost. So if you hold 4 VE FXS per 1 Frax in the LP, so basically you need 4 VE FXS per dollar in the pool, you will then get a 2x on that liquidity you provide. What that means is if you stake enough FXS, you'll get about a 120% APR here. Now, obviously, for stablecoins, for a blue chip project that's been audited by Trail of Bits, that is pretty much best in class. You can see why this mechanic is pretty reflexive. Basically, people now farm the FXS token, and they don't just want to dump it as a farm token. There's actually a lot of utility here because it can give you a boosted yield on stablecoins. In addition, VE FXS and FXS in general gives you a share of platform revenue. Now, as you can see on this staking overview page, there are a ton of different yield farms, so I won't cover them all, but rest assured, if there's something you want to farm, if it has to do with stablecoins or FXS, it probably exists here, so I will link that below and you can check it out at your own time. Now, as you all know, I love looking at Nansen and checking the data out, and I actually think it's really helpful here to look at the Frax stablecoin first, not just the governance token, because look what's happening with the unique addresses. It's just continuing to climb, which is nice to see. What that tells me is there's a lot of different addresses that are farming on Frax and that are using the Frax stablecoin. It's not just a small concentration of whales diluting the yield farms on the Frax website and just farming there with a large position. It's also worth noting that when people stake the Frax token, it's not going to show up in their wallet anymore, so it won't display here unless they have a small amount of Frax in their wallet, so something to keep in mind that this real number is probably a bit higher. If we look at the trades tab here, it's interesting to see that the volume has been pretty consistent over the last few months and has been what I would say is quite high for a stablecoin. So it looks like averaging between, let's just say, the $20 to $30 million of volume per day range, which I think is quite good and really goes to show you the resilience of the peg, which you can see at the top here in purple. I've just tabbed over to DAI's page, so this is the DAI stablecoin, which is probably one of the most popular stablecoins in DeFi, and just compare the amount of unique addresses there is now over 400,000, so really a lot of room to grow for Frax, or a lot of competition if you look at it from the other perspective. And if we go over to trades here, you can see that there really is a ton more volume for DAI right now. It looks like the average is about 10x higher, or a few $100 million of volume a day. Now we are on the FXS token here, so this is the governance token, and you can see unique addresses is climbing quite high. So again, the purpose of the liquidity mining program to distribute FXS amongst a large number of users is working at face value. Interesting to look at the token seniority distribution here. You can see the majority of holders have been holding for 90 days or longer. So again, that could potentially be a concern because that means a lot of people are probably in profit. The FXS token has gone up a ton in price. So that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover about Frax. As you can see, since I made the first videos on Frax about 8 months ago, there's been a ton of progress, and I'm really proud of everything the team has done and that I've been a part of this project just by being in the community. Now again, of course, I do have some biases here. I hold FXS. I've been in the community for months, and over the last year, I've really gotten to know Sam, the founder, quite well, and he's just a great person, so happy to make this video to support Frax. With that said, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the new mic, the new camera, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.